This is the new Weight Watchers. It works for members like Jojo, who's learning simple, healthy habits, Sharia, who's making progress with meds, and Kim, who still gets to eat what she loves. For over 60 years, we've helped millions of members find what works for them. Now, it's your turn. Watch your life open up. Watch your story shift. Watch what you're capable of. Watch it work. Get started today at WeightWatchers.com.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, S-H-O-W, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. I hope you're doing well. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, is 877-973-7425. Did I just say that? I'm sorry, brain fart. Trying to text at the same time, which is never a good thing. I am a professional, and sometimes you just got to respond to somebody as they're sending it because it's of high urgency, and I can't tell you anything about it because it's a secret. Now, I want to talk to you about normal people. You know why I like this program? Why I love you guys? In all seriousness, I genuinely love dealing with you guys. I love interacting with you. My son yesterday spent time with a home builder who is a listener of the program. He's going to be with a project manager tomorrow. He's going to be with another home builder who's gotten to be a friend I want to build my house one day if I ever win the lottery. And all of whom I have met through this program. A bunch of normal people. Let me pull back the curtain a little bit on this program. I can actually speak to other programs because I know it well, know the data well, and it goes back to my time at Red State, and it's always kind of been my very consistent philosophy in growing radio, is when I do my program, I specifically try to approach the show as if you are a normal person who just wants to know what's going on in the world. You don't need the Republican Party talking points. You want to know what's actually happening in the world, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. You want to know what's true, what's not true, if something is circulating that's not true, and then you want to go back to your life. When we survey the audience, what we regularly find is that our audience tends to be in their 30s and above, typically 30s to 40s. You're married, you have kids, you commute to work, you listen to me on the lunch break or podcast or live stream on your way in the morning, you listen to yesterday's show. You want to get in, you want to find out what's going on in the world, how to think about what's going on, get access to information, then you want to get out. You don't want to sit here and have me tell you the latest and greatest Republican Party victory. You don't want to have me tell you how the conservative talking point of the day, the Trump talking point of the day. You want to go back and watch sports. And you tune in to me because you know I'm going to be a straight shooter with you. You know where my heart is and what my worldview is. And you know I'm not just going to spin you on behalf of a politician or a party. And there are a lot of radio programs out there now on the right that want to give you the marching orders of the GOP and tell you the spin from the GOP. And you're not really getting the truth in the news so that you can go back and be an informed person. In other words, those of you who listen to my program, generally, you're not quite normal because normal people are actually doing other stuff during the day, but you're mostly normal. What I really like about my audience, according to all the studies about my audience, you guys are not hyper online. You actually touch grass. One of my great concerns about where the Republican Party is right now and the Trump administration is that they are as hyper online as the worst excesses of the Democratic Party in 2020. If you'll recall the autopsies of both the Elizabeth Warren campaign and the Kamala Harris campaigns in 2020, the common thread in both of them in the New York Times autopsies was people said they were far more interested in the topics that were percolating on Twitter than in the real world. They weren't able to relate to people because they were so online. Kamala Harris in particular was so busy trying to win the war on Twitter every day, she lost the campaign. People forget Kamala Harris never made it to Iowa. She dropped out before the first caucus or primary in 2020. Elizabeth Warren barely hung on. Increasingly, there are people on the right who are hyper online. I remember after Donald Trump got elected in 2024, I saw a young man I follow who's in his 20s and is very on Twitter. And he said, stop telling people they need to go touch grass. If you don't think Twitter is real life, you need to touch grass. But the problem is Twitter's not real life. Do you know what percentage of Americans are on Twitter on a daily basis? Any idea? Because it gets a lot of disproportionate talk on TV, on social media. It gets a lot of disproportionate talk on CNN, MS Now, Fox News. You know how many regular Americans are on Twitter daily? 10%. Only 21% of U.S. adults have a Twitter account. Only 10% check in daily. The loudest platform on social media touches less than 10% of the adults in the country. How many Americans are watching Fox News, CNN, or MS Now? Any idea? Less than 1% of the country. Less than 1% of the country on primetime TV at night is watching CNN, MS Now, and Fox News. In fact, again, the Abby Phillip correction from her teleprompter misread last night, more people will see it on Twitter than saw it live on TV because more people pay attention to Twitter than pay attention to her show on CNN. And even then, it's less than 10% of the population. Now, what's that mean? It means that if you are online and you're in politics and you're constantly in the Twitter feed, and frankly, I am, and I got to be part of my job, and it actually is great to find the percolating, pulsing stories out there. You're not normal. I recognize I'm not normal, and I don't mean it in a pejorative way. You're just simply not normal. Normal people are not regularly on Twitter. Normal people are not watching Fox News, CNN, or MS Now at night. Normal people have families. Normal people are going to Little League. Normal people are going to work. Normal people are doing what my family does at about 5 o'clock every evening, and it just, I want to beat my head on my desk right now thinking about it. Normal people at about 5 p.m., if mom's not home or dad and having cooked supper, go through the same routine I go through most nights. What do you want for supper? Food. What sort of food? The type that you eat. What sort do you eat? The type that I like. What type do you like? The type that makes me happy. What food makes you happy? Food that I eat. My smart aleck kids. What do you want for supper? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. Nobody has an answer. You know, my kids have learned now that the first one to actually come up with the name of a food is probably going to win because everybody else is like, oh, I don't know. And we cook a lot on the weekends, and there are some nights we cook. But our lives, we're in that season of life right now where the 17-year-old, he's got piano or organ practice. The 20-year-old, she's got classes in the evening. My wife has been exhausted through the day from everything she's doing. I come home from the gym. I go to work, then go to the gym, and I come home and I'm starving and nobody wants to cook, so we just go somewhere. Last night, my son and I was going to teach him how to make pizzas in our pizza oven, and we turned it on. We went to eat supper, and then my wife was like, oh, we got to run these errands. We ran the errands. By the time we came home, the pizza oven out back was over 1,000 degrees. My son opened it. The handle was so hot, he dropped it on the grass, and the grass caught on fire. Had to turn the propane off. We're going to try pizzas again tonight. Normal people are focused on what they're doing for supper, and then they want to be entertained. And so the hyper anxiety and the argumentation and the view that America is divided are completely false. More Americans get their news every night from ABC, CBS, and NBC in their 30-minute news telecast than from CNN, Fox, and MS Now. And even then, it's not as much anymore. It used to be dominant. More Americans watch their local newscasts than watch the national newscasts on those three networks. A lot of Americans turn into their local news to find out what's going on in their community. They're far more focused on their community. The moral of the story is this. We're in a military engagement with Iran. The Republicans don't want to call a war, but is a war, even if it's not a declared war by Congress. No war has been a declared war since World War II, but we're there. And people went to bed on a Friday night thinking I got to go fill up my car on Saturday and wash it. And they got up and gas prices were higher than they were on Friday. They're like, what the heck has happened? Oh, we've bombed Iran. And then gas prices went up and the gas prices have started going down again. Gas prices are still high. I put my gas in my car. Now I got to pay premium unleaded because I got a Denali and that's what it wants, or the engine gets finicky. And it was over $4 a gallon when I filled it up the other day. I can do that for a time, as you can do that for a time, but over time it begins to weigh on us. Normal Americans are worried about gas prices. Normal Americans are worried about the engagement with Iran. But normal Americans are actually far more worried about what their kids are doing, what their kids are learning, what's happening in their community than they are with Washington, D.C. And the way that a politician who wants to win in November needs to remember is that while the national politics of the day are certainly firing people up, being able to talk to normal people like a normal person is really going to matter. Being able to be a normal person is going to matter. You know, here's a funny thing that happens. So when a radio station picks up my show, more often than not, what happens is other stations other radio competitors will call and say, hey, just so you know, that guy's never Trump and you should put our show on instead. And my ratings actually went up in 2016 when I said I wouldn't support Donald Trump. And it really hasn't had an impact with my stations because the shows that are actually obsessed with Donald Trump and talk about Donald Trump all the time are the ones that are not doing well. And that's significant. As you know, Donald Trump is going to be gone in 2 years. And so much of the media, so much of talk radio is single-mindedly fixated on what the world of Donald Trump when he's temporary. And most normal Americans are kind of tired of talking about him all the time. And yet online there's an obsession. That's actually good news for you. It means most Americans around you and me are not divided as much as the media would have us believe. They're not as divided as social media would have us believe. The great divorce and crack up of this country is overstated and overrated. The great divorce of this country, the crack up of this country, the people in blue states hate people in red states, hate people in blue states, it's overstated. It's actually more overstated on the right than the left because people on the left tend to perversely obsess about politics. But most Americans aren't on the left. Most Americans do not obsess about politics. And there's a lesson here for all of us who do talk about politics a lot, that you got to find ways to relate to people. We're in that horrible, crummy period of the year where there's hardly any sports on TV. You got some hockey. Baseball, thank God, will be starting soon. But football is gone. College football won't be back until later this year. It's it's the sad, boring period for sports on TV. We got the Special Olympics to entertain us, I guess, for another week. Most Americans are focused on those things, though, not on daily polling. So I would tell you this. If you're obsessed with the machinations of the political maneuvering of Washington on a daily basis, and that's all you can talk about, you are not a normal person and need to go touch grass. You know who I can tell? When I make friends with people on the radio, you know who I can tell is friends with the guy on the radio versus friends with Eric Erickson? The people who can only talk about politics are the people who are friends with the guy on the radio. The people who want to talk about the other things in life, they want to be my friend. And the same with you. If all you can do is talk about politics and you are online constantly, you're not really normal. That's not necessarily a bad thing. just keep in mind that when you're on Twitter all the time and you see the great civil war in America is coming because people on the left and right hate each other or don't want to be in a country anymore, that's less than 10% of Americans checking in with Twitter, less than 1% of Americans paying attention to Fox News and MS Now and CNN at night. Most people are busy with their lives, and that's actually a good thing. The country is far more healthy and in a better place mentally than most people online believe it is, because most people online, they're the ones who aren't the normal ones. So go touch some grass. Be normal. Relax. We are going to be okay, whether you believe it or not. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. So Axios has a story about Kristi Noem leaving with lots of contracts on her desk and, a system in place that is messy. She's been signing, she got in trouble for that one contract given to, I guess, Trish McLaughlin's husband's company. It appears to be no bid. This is the one that actually was the straw that broke the camel's back. But they've also got that Boeing 737 Love plane. It's like the Mile High Club plane. And it's got the bed in the back that people were concerned about with her being on the plane with certain other people. And they look like they might be canceling the 737 now and some of the other jets. She the more we're learning about her mismanagement, we shouldn't be surprised. She ran an ad campaign when she was governor of South Carolina. So, by the way, she did an ad campaign for the Department of Homeland Security that was over $100 million budget. And, of course, was the star of the ad campaign. This is the same woman who, as governor, approved an ad campaign, an anti-drug ad campaign, and I think it was about meth. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. You know what the tagline for the ad campaign was? Meth. We're on it. I think they might have been. Literally, that was the ad campaign. Meth. We're on it. It might have been fentanyl, but I think it was meth. Meth. We're on it. Yes, meth. We're on it. Maybe that explains all of the ways she's functioned at the Department of Homeland Security, except the lips. I just wonder if she and Gavin Newsom make eye contact with each other at the plastic surgeon's office. Wow. Okay, I got to move on. Let me tell you about Swiss America, because with all the gold and oil price and precious metal instability out there and commodity instability, they have a great website at SwissAmerica.com/Eric, where you can actually get a lot of information about markets, commodities, precious metals, oil, all of that at SwissAmerica.com/Eric. They got a news and insight tab. They got a great blog that explains all this stuff, including, like, for example, the gold transfer out of Venezuela to the United States Donald Trump was able to arrange last week. They've also been warning people about the secret war on cash, and they'd love to give you their report. You can call or text 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. Just mention my name. You don't even have to talk to a person. You can text 800-289-2646. And then my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K. The Secret War on Cash report takes less than 50 minutes to read. It involves crypto as well. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Get the news and insight tab. Stay informed about commodities, precious metals, what the BRIC nations are doing. Build a relationship with Swiss America, or 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. I have a personal moment of mild embarrassment to share with you. So I'm not a New Year's resolution guy, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to get a golf handicap this year. You got to play so many rounds, and you got to sign up with GHIN. I just a few moments ago received an email that I have been given my handicap. It's not good, 23, which means I have room to improve now, and I can see that number go. I have a goal now to bring it down. The average for a guy in the United States is like 14. The average for a woman is like 29, so I'm doing better, but still, I got to work on it. We got more important stuff to talk about. I will be down there with you guys in Jacksonville later this week. WOKV, be doing the show from there on Friday and Monday as I'm down there for the Players, hanging out with you guys. Should be a fun time. If you see me around the Players tournament on Saturday, that is actually me there. So looking forward to it. Now, I got to talk about, basic economics. You know what we should probably do? I don't know that I want to do it because it would involve reading books, and books have words. But there are some books out there that I just feel like I think maybe we should all reread basic economic books. And there is one on basic economics. And, of course, there is Economics in One Lesson, which is a phenomenal book. And I got to tell you, if you want the best basic book to read about economics, Economics in One Lesson is a great book to read. And there are many others out there. People on the left and the right have forgotten basic economics. And I don't think it's a coincidence, by the way, that some of the very loud voices on the right these days who claim to be economic experts are actually socialists, and they're whispering into the ears of members of the Trump administration. Orrin Cass, for example, is a self-described economist. I don't know that he has actual formal training in it. And a lot of these guys, when the president put his tariffs out and prices didn't go up immediately, they're like, ha-ha! What do the economists know? Actually, the economists knew a great deal, including that the tariffs didn't go into effect when Trump said they did, and they went up and down, and a lot of businesses held off on doing anything because they thought the tariffs would go away or the Supreme Court would declare them unconstitutional, which they ultimately did. And we're actually starting to see the effects of the tariffs. And the economists, the free market economists, were actually right about the tariffs. I got trash talked by a number of people who listened to this program who were like, no, the prices didn't go up the way you said they would. And I replied to one guy. I said, sir, if you listen to me, I told you that what would happen is multifaceted. But if prices didn't go up, wages would not go up. And wages have not grown in this country in many industries because instead of raising your prices, they just didn't give people pay raises to offset the cost. The left is having a hard time understanding this stuff right now. In California, they are proposing a wealth tax. And the way they're going to do the wealth tax is that if it passes in November, it'll be retroactive to January of this year. This is from Axios. California voters are likelier than not to support a proposed wealth tax that's already being blamed for driving well-known billionaires out of the state, according to a new poll by Politico and his partner. But it's on a knife's edge, and voters are still weary enough to be talked out of it. Half of voters said they would vote for a ballot initiative that would impose a one-time 5% tax on the ultra-wealthy versus just 28% opposed. But the survey suggested voters are highly susceptible to counter-arguments, and the initiative's wealthy opponents have ample resources to broadcast those critiques. The findings preview a fiercely contested and highly expensive campaign if the measure qualifies for the November ballot. The proposal has already been extraordinarily contentious, galvanizing Silicon Valley foes and splitting Democrats. Gavin Newsom fiercely opposes it. Bernie Sanders is campaigning for it. The conflict has opened a volatile front in a broader tax battle in the nation's most populous state, with unions pushing to extend a tax on top earners as business groups work to impose limits. Let me put in perspective for you the problem with the wealth tax. And Elizabeth Warren is a big champion of the wealth tax, and it's basically paper money, not real money. So let me go to CNBC.com right now. The Dow is down 400 points right now. S&P 500 down 26, NASDAQ down 59. Chubb is set to become the big U.S. insurer for Persian Gulf shipping. 3 cargo ships have been struck off Iran's coast, including one of the Straits of Hormuz. Gas prices are going up. There are problems. And right now on Wall Street, Oracle is one of the big movers of the day. It's at $162.2 share, $162.02. It's up $12.79. Larry Ellison is the owner. If Larry Ellison lives in California, he's a multi-billionaire, and the wealth tax in California would say, based on the shares you own in Oracle today, here's how you've got to pay 5% of that to the state of California. Now, Larry Ellison, let's say Larry Ellison owns $1 billion in Oracle stock. Larry Ellison on paper is worth $1 billion because he owns $1 billion of Oracle stock. And so Larry Ellison will be taxed at 5% of that $1 billion. But tomorrow, the stock may fall. And suddenly Larry Ellison's not worth $1 billion. He might be worth $900 million, which is still a lot of money, but it's not $1 billion. It's all on paper. Until the moment Larry Ellison sells his stock, he's not actually worth $1 billion. It's just on paper. What the left has decided is that your paper net worth based on the value of your portfolio is how we'll determine if you're a billionaire. It doesn't matter if you don't have ready access to the money. It doesn't matter if you have that much money in your bank account. If you own stock that's valued that much, they want to come for your money. Now, this is absurd because if the stock market falls the next day, suddenly you're no longer worth that amount of money. If the stock market goes up 2 days later, suddenly you are. It goes back down the next day, suddenly you're not. Where do you put it? They do a calculation to say, well, if on average it's above this point, we're going to take 5% of it. It's absurd, but it's a growing idea on the left. It is a progressive idea. There are progressives on the right who are embracing this idea. Let's just tax the paper wealth of billionaires, not the real wealth, the paper wealth. Remember, when the income tax started in the early 1900s, we were told only the wealthiest would pay the income tax. And over time, they started taxing the not just the ultra wealthy, but the wealthy and then the middle class. The income tax spread, the wealth tax will spread as well. We're going to tax the value of your 401k. We're going to tax the value of your outside non-401k investments. We're going to tax the value of your portfolio. We're going to tax other values. We're going to add up your whole wealth, your property value that you're already paying taxes on, your portfolio value you'll pay capital gains taxes on, your income, all of that, we're going to tax you again. That's where this is headed over time. So what's happening in California is that the wealthiest of the wealthy are packing up and leaving. They're afraid it's going to pass. And they're like, you know what? That we've even gotten to this point. Even Gavin Newsom says it's a bad idea. We're done. We're leaving. It's not just there. Let me read you this. 44 years ago, Sherry and I made the cross-country trip from New York City to Seattle in our 1979 Audi, along with Jonas, our golden retriever. We were starting a new life. Sherry would be the breadwinner of the family, taking on a career in design. And I started a new job on September 7th, 1982 at a place called Starbucks. Back then, the Pike Place Starbucks only sold whole bean coffee. Today, it's the most visited Starbucks in the world. This is Howard Schultz. The history of the company is bound up in the very foundation walls and floorboards of our first store in the city's historic market. The spirit of continuing forward has long underpinned our approach to life, in business and philanthropy, and most importantly, as a family. For those of you who know us well, we've entered the retirement phase of our lives, a term we're both getting used to. Last year, we traveled to dozens of places around the world, places we were too busy to see when building Starbucks and raising kids. And we've moved to Miami for our next adventure together. We're enjoying the sunshine of South Florida, and it's a lure to our kids on the East Coast as they raise families. Like many other Seattle-based businesses, Starbucks today stands on the shoulders of many Pacific Northwesterners who built the company. They helped shape the culture, the benefits, and the brand, contributing to the civic community and public life of the city and state. It is our hope that Washington will remain a place for business and entrepreneurship to thrive, creating essential opportunities for those in Seattle and the surrounding area. Over the years, as Sherry and I grew our family and built Starbucks globally, we were witness to the astonishing development of Seattle. We focused on doing our part to help those at risk and facing hard times in the city. In 1990, Sherry started the Schultz Family Foundation, launching critical work to help others in our community and beyond, work that has grown in scale and impact with each passing year. We've entrusted the leadership of the foundation to our dear friend Vivek Varma with a mandate to accelerate our philanthropic investments to drive meaningful change. While our private family office will move to Miami, our foundation will continue operations in Seattle. We will be forever grateful for the memories made in Seattle and the relationships built along the way. To the family, friends, and partners who made Seattle our home for many years, thank you. Democrats, this is left unsaid by Howard Schultz, a progressive, have decided to drive up the tax on the wealthy, and they're fleeing. In Washington state, the billionaires are leaving. Jeff Bezos is gone, Howard Schultz is leaving, and others are leaving before they have to pay the tax man. They built these states. Their progressive politics ruined the states, and now they're leaving. In California, the wealthy, the Google founders, Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook and others, they're moving to Florida. Elon Musk moved to Texas. Texas has seen a 23% gain in population per 10,000 inhabitants. California's lost 25%. Oregon lost 9%. Washington State lost 10%. New York has lost 28%. North Carolina has lost 29%. Maryland has lost 27%. Massachusetts has lost 37% of its population. South Carolina has gained 79% increase per 10,000 inhabitants. Georgia, 13%. Tennessee, 43%. Alabama, 36%. Idaho has increased 63% per 10,000 people, a 63.2 jump. Because people are crossing the line from Washington and Oregon and California. They're moving to Idaho. It's not a coincidence. Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho are seeing a massive increase in population. Why? Because people are leaving the massive tax industries of California, Oregon, Washington, New York, Pennsylvania. North Carolina may have a Republican legislature. It's got a progressive governor, a Democrat, and the major cities there have been overtaken by progressives who are driving up crime. It's just amazing to watch this sort of thing happen. Delaware is one of the very blue states of the country that is very pro-business, and it's jumped 54% as people in Maryland and Pennsylvania and New Jersey and New York move there. In Virginia, Boeing, which left Washington State for Illinois and left Illinois for Virginia, Boeing is moving to Missouri. The moment the Democrats in Virginia decided to drive up the corporate tax, Boeing said, we're out. These policies matter. And what happens is the people who are left behind have to pay more taxes to maintain the social safety net that they're used to. And so more people leave, and it becomes a poisonous circle. And the Democrats can't help themselves. And the great, great irony is that it's the progressive donors who everyone is turning on. It's the progressive donors. Howard Schultz is a progressive donor. The Google guys in California, they're progressives. They put in place and inspired and emboldened the union activists and others to do what they're doing, and now the union activists and others are turning on them. When are they going to turn on Alex Soros? It's only a matter of time. Alex Soros continues to push the Democrats further and further left. At some point, the Democrats are going to turn on that guy, too. That one's going to be very funny to watch. In the meantime, those of you in red states, you got to be a little cautious about all these people flooding your states. But the data shows that in many cases, particularly in Texas and Florida, the people who are fleeing the blue states, they've either learned their lessons or they're the conservatives who are coming. The conservatives have been rushing to get out of those states knowing what's coming. And those states, I mean, are we going to see a California bankruptcy at some point? We just might, the way that state is trending. The FBI is warning police departments in California. Iran wants to retaliate for American attacks by launching drones against the West Coast. This is according to ABC News hitting the wire right now. The United States has apparently just dropped a massive ordnance penetrator, essentially drop it on a mountain and it pierces the rock and goes down and has blown up a cave in central Iran that housed a bunch of missiles, and there's a giant mushroom cloud. Multiple people are now sending out pictures of this as the sun sets there in Tehran. You know, there is a lot of good news out of Iran, and there is a massive, massive operation underway to try to convince you that we are losing the situation in Iran. I want to talk about that when we come back. But first, Brian Westbury, the economist at First Trust, just pointed this out. The Key Bridge, which is the collapsed bridge that collapsed in 2024, was originally projected to cost between $1.7 and $1.9 billion to replace and be back in service by 2028. Well, they've just pushed the date to 2030. Now it's going to cost $5.2 billion to replace this bridge. This is a reminder that Democrats can't build anything. They're really, really bad at it. So the Key Bridge collapsed in 2024 when a ship hit it. They said it was going to cost $1.9 billion. It would be back in operation by 2028. And now it's going to be 2030. It's going to cost $5.2 billion, and they're not even certain about that. It's like the high-speed rail line in California that is not built. No track has been laid, and they spent billions of dollars. Democrats are incapable of building stuff. Or the Biden administration deciding to spend a bunch of money to spread high-speed internet around the country, and they never gave out a single contract to do it. Not a single inch of line was laid for high-speed internet in the country. Democrats can't build stuff. They're held hostage by their DEI requirements for giving out grants and stuff and environmental concerns and everything else. Democrats can't build stuff. They're too captured by special interests. This hour of the program brought to you by Van Allen Golf. If you go to vanallengolf.com or you text the word golf to 33777, you can get one of their fantastic putters, and you really should. I've got one of their putters, and they're fantastic. They got the blade. They're coming out with the mallet. vanallengolf.com. Now, I got to tell you about Renai, my tankless water heater, how I love my tankless water heater. Go to talkingtankless.com. Renai set up that website for you, talkingtankless.com, where you can talk to a Renai professional about yanking the tank out of your house and put it in a tankless water heater. You know, your tank of a water heater is constantly using power to keep the hot water in it hot. It may be insulated, but it still requires gas or electricity to constantly keep it hot. With a Renai tankless water heater, it only uses energy when the water's flowing through it, and it heats up quickly, and you never run out of hot water. You go to talkingtankless.com and you partner with Renai for your home. You can get it for your existing house. We had a water heater in our house, a water tank. It leaked, flooded our underneath our house. And we decided it was time to go tankless, and we got the Renai tankless water heater, and it is fantastic. We never run out of hot water. The kids don't fight over hot water. Our power bill went down because it's so efficient. You can experience the same thing. TalkingTankless.com with Renai, TalkingTankless.com. Click the button, talk to a Renai pro, and let them install a tankless water heater in your existing house. If you're building a house or buying a house or renovating, it's a no-brainer. Get a tankless water heater. TalkingTankless.com.